Hello and welcome to Attacking Third. We are live on YouTube. We're going to chat all about NWSL Week 12. We got a preview for you all, so make sure you subscribe to us, like this video, drop us your thoughts on all the action that you have in halfway point of the NWSL season. You know that we want to hear all about it from you. So let's go. Hey everyone, welcome into Attacking Third, CBS Sports Soccer Podcast. I'm Sandra Herrera, lead NWSL writer for CBS Sports, joined today by my special guest, Jordan Angeli, NWSL analyst, and her last show for now. Thank you for filling in. Appreciate you, Jordan. Uh,
Yes. Good morning. Thanks for letting me fill in. This has been fun, Sandra.
I
Really,
we were just chatting. We were like, you know what, we can't believe that it's coming up to an end here. But you know what, I have a feeling that we've got some plans and some cool stuff down the pipeline and in the future, and we need to have you back because I've loved doing these with you. I love them even more when like Lisa's involved and we're all hanging out and doing this kind of stuff together. So I am absolutely amped to chat a weekend preview with you this morning. I'm always amped to join everyone live. Thanks everyone for coming through. Good morning if you're joining us. If you're listening to this as a podcast, quick reminder before we jump into all things previewing, subscribe to us on YouTube. You can get alerts for whenever we go live, okay? And you can join along in the chat and in the dialogue and let us know your picks as well, because you know we make those predictions in our previews. So follow, like, and download that so you never miss out on a single episode. We also have some breaking news to touch on in this preview episode as well. We were chatting a little bit about it, content planning, and we felt the best way to do this is just talk about it right at the top and then lean right into the preview of a particular match because there are some factors that might come in and play a little bit of a role when it comes to making our picks. We have to discuss the recent news of Angel City parting ways with their now former head coach, Freya Coombe. It dropped late Wednesday evening. The Athletic reporting that sources had briefed them that the decision had been made. There will be a mutual parting of ways. And then Thursday afternoon, it was made official. So, Jordan, we're talking about the breaking news. We're talking about how it's out there. I
Mhm.
feel like in last few episodes that you have hung out here on A3 with us, we've talked about Angel City and we've had to preview some games, we've had to recap some performances, and they were performances that just kind of left us with more questions than anything else, you know. And it was we've talked a lot about the timeline of things, how there's, you know, certain stretches and certain phases of
Mhm.
a season that, you know, teams maybe take in chunks, right? It's like, hey, how are we gonna map out our first 6 weeks? What does it mean now that we're in the halfway point, et cetera, et cetera? And these results that we were, well, lack of results that we were, you know, seeing for Angel City, um, we just again didn't have the answers to those questions. And so I brought up a few times on here, like, well, does it, when you're in professional sports and you're not getting the results, what typically happens, unfortunately, is like what's considered a natural sports business decision, and you're just like, hey, it's just not working out. We've got to move on here. And we were just even kind of struggled with that because we were just kind of like, well, is that like the next move here for Angel City? What does it mean for them at this point in the halfway season? So when we see something like this finally drop, it's official, right? What's like your initial reaction to this kind of news?
My initial reaction, I was right after I had finished calling a game on Wednesday night, and I was like, "What is going on?" Like
Yeah.
I think it shocked me because it did feel like the build at Angel City was so much to do with. I mean, they got Freya really early in the process,
Yeah.
and got her from Gotham. Was excited about what she could help build with this squad, and um so I don't know. I felt like, and I think I told you this specifically, I felt like there was a real buy-in from Angel City to keep Freya and let her ride out this wave. But then it didn't really surprise me. We had talked in depth about how Angel City looked disjointed, that they didn't have sometimes a plan that was evident in how they were going to attack other teams. and get results. 5 games in a row where they were winless. That one of those was a draw, the rest losses. And I think that was really the tipping point, especially at home. That game against Chicago, it wasn't even about how Angel City played on the field. It felt like the team didn't have that X factor to say, this is our home field and we have to be better here. I think some of that comes from the players, of course, and I will always take responsibility as a former player that I think they would take responsibility for themselves. But I think you have to make moves, especially the ambition of this Angel City team and organization. They have done some pretty aggressive things in the past. And so I wouldn't imagine, if we didn't see her fired now, I think one more result, depending on what it was, probably would have seen her not make it through. But I just want to say Freya was amazing to work with and was so helpful on coaches' calls. And as a broadcaster, just so appreciative of her ability to give us a little bit of insight into what she was thinking. So, it's also a person. And I feel like that's hard for me too, because her life just significantly changed. And we'll see how that affects the squad.
That type of perspective is always so tough and difficult to deal with. Listen, Freya Coombe, I think, was one of our first kind of head coach interviews on Attacking Third. A delight to chat about all things Angel City. She introduced the concept of the dish to us. It's a throwback to one of our earlier kind of holiday episodes as well. She talked about how her family gets together and presents a dish. It's like this massive dessert dish. So yeah, like you always are like reminded of like the human aspect of it, and all of that behind it. But I think that's the other component I think that comes out of this, right? You see the official announcement drop from the club, but then you also see a statement from Freya Coombe as well. Like there's a mutual expression of like, hey, good luck. You had to make a decision. We have to move on from here. She put on her own personal social media, and she starts by thanking Angel City. She, of course, thanks the fans, and she's, of course, wishes them luck in the final phase of that statement. She says to the players and staff, it's been a pleasure to work with you, and I wish you all the health, happiness, and success for this season and everything beyond. And I really appreciate that at the top of that statement, she mentions like a little bit of like, kind of the big event of it all with her arrival to Angel City. How she said that she's really happy that she got to start off with them and that they showed the world what happens when people properly invest in women's sports. Those are important things to note. And it doesn't seem as if it's like a bitter end. Like I said, it just sort of feels like one of those kind of natural sports decision type of things that we see happen across the world of pro athletics. It's you have a team with big ambitions, right? As Freya Coombe has stated in her farewell, and then you have a team that's struggling to not get results, and it's kind of one of these things where it's like, what's the definition of insanity, right? Like continuing on in those same patterns, and if it's not just about getting results but also just getting losses, it was just one of those things where it just sort of felt like eventually something was going to come. It was bending, and eventually things were going to break. So in terms of everything being done, dusted, and official now, the look ahead, right? What does this mean for Angel City moving forward? They've got a game coming up this weekend against San Diego Wave. It's a big one. It's going to be on CBS. It's a rivalry match. You can catch all the action kicking off at 4 p.m. Eastern. And for now, in the interim, it's going to be Becky Tweed who's going to lead this team throughout the remainder or duration of this regular season. Who knows? Maybe a shorter term. It depends on how quickly I think Angel City wants to go ahead and fill that position. But Jordan, I just sort of feel like they're not going to have a lot of trouble filling it. This is going to be a very, very lucrative role. I think they're gonna have people reaching out to them instead of
they probably already do. They probably already do, Sandra. Yeah. It's going to be a role that everybody wants, and I think that one of the things I noticed right away, and I was talking to Jackie Oatley, another broadcaster, about is it coincides with the ending of a lot of seasons in Europe. And so we saw last year Juan Carlos Amorós come in Houston middle of the season and really make his mark coming from Europe. And can they find a coach not exactly like him, but that kind of draw where you say, hey, come coach an NWSL, show off a little bit of your tactics, your building of a squad. And we've seen what Juan Carlos Amorós has done with those two things in Gotham this year. So I would imagine this is going to be a pretty extensive look at a lot of different coaches, but everybody's going to want to be a part of Angel City, where they play, living in LA, the organization. That this is, there's a reason why it's valued so high when it comes to just the worth of the club. It is a great place to be. And I think that's also why they expect you to win. They expect you to win. So I think it's not just, I'll say one more thing. It's not just the coach that is going to help them. I think Angel City in general needs to evaluate how they build a roster, because I think there are some aspects where they need to get a little deeper. I constantly talk about their midfield, and I think that their midfield can be enhanced. So does that also allow them to look a little bit more into that? Because it's not just Freya who wins and loses games. It's also the team on the field.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with you. I think you think back a little bit to her, arrival to the club, and the resources, and again all of the investment that's put into that. It's a team that had to go through a draft for the first time, an expansion draft as well. Have to maybe make moves with teams who are looking to avoid the expansion draft, try to make some deals there. And it's one of those things where it's like you start a project and then it's like you're unable to kind of see through its finish. But I think even with all the injuries and everything like that, I think you can almost kind of echo a similar sentiment across all 12 teams at this rate in the NWSL. I don't think there's any single team out there that isn't struggling with some injuries of their own, and the competitiveness and the level of competitiveness in the league, and having to get out there and get those results. So I'm curious to see Tweed's effect, on this. Sometimes that's also what happens. Sometimes a thing happens and a team it snaps a team or jars up a team a little bit, and then we saw with Kansas City very briefly after the dismissal of Matt Potter. Maybe this is something that we're going to see with Angel City as well. I don't know how long you ride that kind of energy, but with this match, it's a huge rivalry match. So there's already you already have motivation there. You didn't. It's almost like they didn't need anything extra, but now they have it. Now this is here. Now they're going in without Coombe, they're going in with an interim coach. Tweed, how is the team preparing for this moment? And I think if you're one of those bottom half or lower half table teams, this is it. Like, your season is for real starting now. Like, there's no looking back. You have to come out in every single game with the urgency at the first whistle. So I'm very curious about what we're going to see in a matchup like this. It's a SoCal rivalry, so the travel isn't too hefty for them. They are going to be at an away stadium. Snapdragon is a place that has become a little difficult, maybe for some opposition, because of the great sights and sounds that you see out of those rivalry games. And it's ripe for a spoiler, but I don't know if it's with the form of San Diego, if we're gonna see that spoiler effect happen in this match. So I'm curious about it. I'm also very curious about who's going to be available. Jordan, we saw Alex Morgan, not dressed against Racing in their previous match. We're looking at increased minutes for Sydney Leroux. How many can she give in this game? So I think there's still some unknown variables there. I think for both sides of the pitch here. So I don't know if I'm swayed one way or the other, but I think I'm going to go with the Wave in this one. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think one of the things that Angel City has done well is, the leadership of Sarah Gordon has been really good all season long. Yeah. Essentially, she's been an Iron Woman. Coming back from an ACL, playing every single minute is incredible to me because that is not an easy feat. And so I think she will make it hard for the Wave and the way that she can organize the back line. But a lot of the notes that I have written down about this game are about San Diego. I think San Diego is going to feel a little bit, they're going to feel confident at home. Snapdragon is going to be wild, I think, especially for this rivalry. There's going to be, I would imagine, a good 30,000 people there. I feel like San Diego, we know what they're going to do defensively. They're so difficult to break down. And this is where I think it's going to be difficult for Angel City, because if San Diego sits in this really condensed block and clog it up, and they don't give you space in behind, which is where Thompson typically thrives, how does she affect the game? Or how does Sydney LaRue affect the game? So I think that's going to be a big question. Excuse me. But for the Wave at home, they're going to be able to be a little bit more expansive against Angel City. Angel City has shown that they want to press, but they haven't been super cohesive in their press.
Yeah.
So I think whether it's Colaprico and Enge, we still haven't seen a lot of Emily Van Egmond, which I am bummed about with the World Cup just on the horizon. I hope she's all right and be able to play in that. Is it Van Egmond? But Casey Stoney has really added a level to this team by bringing in some of these players who are so good through the middle of the park that they want to play. And I think that this Angel City's squad struggles in the middle of the park. So can those players essentially for the Wave be effective? And then it doesn't really matter who of course it's going to be better if they have Alex Morgan, but I think we're going to see Jaden Shaw on the ball a lot. I think Jakobsen she and Jaden Shaw seem to be finding a really good connection with one another. So the way that Angel City gets in this game, I feel like is going to be from a set piece. If you have Ertz, if you have Gordon, if you have Reed or Nielsen, they're very good at attacking first and second balls in the box. So I got to go with Wave. I think the Wave are going to win this one, but Angel City are going to have their hands full, but they could have that little bit of a bump. And
I think they'll be competitive. I think because of that, like in the back of our brains, we're like almost a little bit reluctant to like go with like an actual winner or loser in this one. But I think San Diego will have that edge, and I think that's how we both feel. Mm-hmm. And I love that we both feel like it's going to be a low scoring game, because we have to tune in and credit that defensive shape of the Wave right now. They absolutely are clicking. But that's why I think we both think it's going to be low scoring, because it's not gonna be easy. We're gonna have two teams motivated by different things, and that always boils up for a good rivalry there. So we're both going the Wave. I always get a little nervous when we lead off the show with a similar pick, but I think we had to absolutely break down the recent news of Coombe's departure, and we had to lean right into this game, kicking everything off this weekend on CBS. We've got more picks to make, okay, but we're going to take a quick break. Stick with us.
A jam-packed weekend of sports leading ladies. Start your mornings on the hardwood with 2 days of WNBA action. Then spend an afternoon at the links with the final round of the Meyer LPGA Classic. Finish your days on the pitch where our NWSL stars shine on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Let's talk and make some more picks. We're promoting all women's sports on CBS this weekend. It's going to be massive. We're shining the light on NWSL, but there's WNBA this weekend. There's LPGA this weekend as well. We're excited to talk all about it. And we just caught the preview of San Diego and Angel City. If you're just joining us after the break, welcome in. We're going to talk about another game that's going to be on CBS. Racing Louisville versus Gotham FC. That one kicking off on Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Let's make some picks. Jordan, Racing has been a team, I think, that has surprised some folks. Mm-hmm. Maybe not you, because I feel like you've been riding.
I have.
We're Racing so far. So, listen, they're going up against Gotham. This is a team that has mostly stayed in the upper half of the table to date for the first half of the season. Racing has just been on the outside looking in. Is this the game where maybe they're the underdogs and they give the upset? And who do you pick in this one and why?
Yeah, I'm like a Racing's little jockey, just ready to cheer them on at all times. They are going to be the underdog in this one because of Gotham's form. I think Gotham has shown that they have been good from the beginning of the season until now. I don't think they played their best game last weekend against Houston, and they're going to know that too. They were sloppy with the ball. They didn't really progress through the lines as we normally see them do. So with Gotham coming off a game like that, where they're going to want to right the wrong, that's a scary place for Louisville to be in. But yeah. I think, this was probably the hardest one I had to choose from, because I really like the way that Racing is playing. And before I make my choice, I'm just going to say a couple of reasons why I like what they're doing. Yeah. Midweek they played in a 4-2-3-1, and Savannah DeMello played as a right winger and came inside with Kayla Fisher playing as a 10. And man, oh man, I think Kayla Fisher just played herself into the starting lineup. And I don't think it'll be as a 10. It potentially could be, but Wang Shuang's been playing so good at the right in regular season that I think it'll be DeMello at the 10 and Fisher at the 9. And what I like about this is Fisher, DeMello, and Wang Shuang, all three of them can play in all three of those positions. So I think if I was Kim Bjorkegren, I would go with those three starting, and they have a little bit more rest from that Wednesday game to a Sunday game. Yep. But Kayla Fisher was everywhere, and she really put her mark on the game, and I think is going to ask questions of the coaching staff. The other reason I like Louisville in this game is when I watch them play, their back line is so drastically different than it was last year. And one of the reasons it's different is the way that they recognize pressure and play through it. There are so many times where Abby Ursig or Lauren Millay, whoever it may be, has someone running straight at them, and they'll either like fake a long cross and chop it back and then just play through to Jalen Howell or Ari Borges. They can meet that pressure with a sense of calm, which a lot of people don't do against Gotham. And I do think it's a different level when you're playing against Lynn Williams screaming at you at high pace versus other forwards in this league. But I like how cool and calm they are playing out of the back, because they're going to face a high pressure from Gotham. So they have to be really solid in those moments. So I think it's going to be key for Gotham to match that with high pressure, but also that second wave of pressure has to be on. And that's their midfield, who I think didn't play up to par in that last game. And I don't know. I think I'm going to go with Racing in this one. But it is going to be, both teams are going to score. We might see multiple goals in this one, but I think that this is going to be a really good, this is my like matchup of the weekend, just because the way these two teams play, they want the ball, they want to play through the lines. And then as they're progressing the ball, they're very unpredictable in what they do, especially now with DeMello playing in different positions. It's not so much just like find the left pocket and DeMello's going to be there. So you have to deny that space if you're the opponent. It's so many more things now. So this is going to be a good one. I hope like people in Louisville show up, out on CBS Sunday afternoon. Like this could be the match to watch.
Look, I'm with you. And I think you got to go sometimes with what's in front of you. And while Gotham had an incredible month of May, they literally put their stamp on it and owned it. They had multiple players on the team of the month, et cetera, et cetera. Lynn Williams, doing what she's been doing on a consistent basis with this team. But they've hit a little bit of a hiccup here in June. They've struggled to get some results. And we both went Racing in our Challenge Cup pick, and they did not disappoint. I mean, talk about a massive performance against Houston Dash, a 3-goal shutout for Challenge Cup. They're walking out of this central region into the semifinals, as far as I'm convinced. Who they're going to face within that is still to be determined. But it's a little bit different going from a Wednesday game to a Sunday game. It is a little bit different. It's different from Wednesday to Saturday or Wednesday to Friday. Thank God that's not the case here. But these are games that you have the momentum and you carry that into your next match. And for racing, they get to do that again at home. And now this time going up against Gotham, I think they might be motivated by that. All these different scenarios in terms of kind of just hovering around that halfway line in terms of the standings, and maybe kind of having that statement game, which is, I think, a thing that I want from racing. And not that we haven't had some games where they have made some statements, but I'm looking for racing to not only get a win, but I want them to get a win against an upper half table team. Yeah. And I think this could be the game where it happens. I don't know if it'll be easy for them. There's a lot of pieces there that they're going to have to account for against Gotham. I feel like Yasmin Ryan, if she's available and ready to go, is going to cause some problems for them if they focus so much energy on containing Lynn Williams. So this could be a player that could be an outlet for them, or even a Taylor Smith, or even a Brunian on the flanks. We'll see. I think that those wide battles are going to be interesting to take a note. We're talking about defensive shapes. Carson Pickett doing really well on that back line as well, to go ahead and recover and cover a lot of ground. Is that going to be an area where things are canceled out, where we see two players in a Brunian and Carson Pickett, trying to kind of take each other out. So I'm very curious about some of the 1v1 and individual battles in this one, but can't help but I'm just going with a gut here. I think it's going to be racing. So I'm also going racing as well. And I feel confident about that, because you know what? We both went racing and they didn't prove us wrong. And I feel like them again. So we're both going racing in this one.
That 1v1, the 1v1 matchup I'm looking at is if DeMello does play on the right side against Neiswanger, who's not, she's still learning how to be an outside back. There's been some moments where that's been pretty evident. And Neiswanger, I think, is a good choice at left back. But who's that center back next to her, willing and ready to be that second defender and that help defender? I think that's going to be the key for Gotham if Neiswanger does start and DeMello's on the right side, because that girl will go everywhere.
All right. We're both going racing in this one. Hopefully they prove us correct. One more pick before we take a break. We got to talk a little bit about North Carolina Courage versus Orlando Pride. Courage coming off of a win of their own. Also shaking things up in the Challenge Cup midweek action. Carried that momentum from that 5-goal shutout of Chicago right into Challenge Cup. And they have just been unbeaten across all competitions since April. We got to talk about it, and we got to speak loudly about it. That is an impressive run for a team that entered this year with storylines and narratives around it, that they were going to rebuild, that they had to build towards, this new culture, this a new way of doing things and getting results. And they're here looking way ahead of the curve here. And a team that we talk about, Jordan, that makes it difficult to pick against when you're putting things together that well. So when it comes to North Carolina versus Orlando, this one's kicking off Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Do you have a winner in this one, or you feel the makings of a draw? Tell me what you think.
It's an interesting game because it's the 6th place team versus the 8th place team. But why those teams are so low, I think, right now, or middle of the table, is because they had a difficult start to the season. But both teams were very adamant about the growing pains happening early, trusting the process, saying, I don't care if we give up some goals early, we're going to make the mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And both of these teams just basically gave other teams goals at the beginning of the year. And now we're seeing the fruit of that labor of saying, all right, we're just going to stick to the plan. I am not going to I'm not going to go against North Carolina, because what they have built has been so great. Remember, they did have that loss a couple weeks ago. They did lose to
a narrow loss. Yes.
It was 1-0. Yes. They dominated the game, as they always do with possession, but it was a loss for them. And they came back and scored 5. So this is a team who is
I love how you set that up.
not shy to put up a lot of goals. And they finally started to find their goal scoring, because that is when you're a real possession-oriented team and the possession isn't going well, the goals are going to be the last thing that comes. And now we've seen them play well. They're so decisive as they move through the thirds of the field. They're difficult when it comes to their counter pressure, because then they get so many numbers forward so they can immediately press an opponent and win the ball back high on the field. I really like what Sean Nahas is building there and what the players have built. They have bought in, and I think that this will be a fun game. Again, these are two of the teams that I've been really impressed with is just how they want to play. And Orlando showed in the last game against Portland that they're all right with not having some of the ball. That they say, okay, Portland, you can have the ball. Okay, North Carolina, you can have the ball, and we're going to defend. And I think that they're going to be in a defensive posture a lot of the times. And how can they use Adriana, Messiah Bright in those crucial moments when they do break out to make sure they have a good outlet that can get them on the counterattack. So I think the Pride will keep themselves in this game just from their structure and their ability to counterattack. But I don't think it's going to be enough for North Carolina, because they have been honestly like a joy to watch. I really have enjoyed just seeing how intricate their movements are, their rotations. And now they have Caroline, who's scoring like we thought she could score at the beginning of the year. Now she's really showing it. So
yeah, I don't know if she's gonna get another hat trick against the Pride, but she's gonna be a factor for sure in this game. And you know what? I just feel like Casey Murphy is gonna have another bit of a statement game here. She's been having an excellent club season for the Courage, and I think with this game, the Pride are no strangers to whipping in that ball, trying to put up some shots and put up some numbers there in front of net. And I think Murphy responds well to that. So I'm excited to see another breakout performance from her. I'm feeling everything you're feeling. I'm also going Courage in this one as well. So we're making some other picks here. So it always gets a little nervy. But I don't know. But you know what? I also feel like when you get to the second half of the season, that happens sometimes. You take a look at what's in front of you. You know what you've seen from the teams, and maybe you make these picks a little bit more differently or confidently or whatever. But when we're looking across the board of these games, I do want us to make one more pick before we take a break. Let's talk a little bit about Houston Dash and OL Reign. This one's going to kick off Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Dash coming off of a tough Challenge Cup loss. Yeah. And OL Reign just doing what they're doing, just like hanging out at the upper half of the table, week to week, just showing off the depth of their roster, showing that it's no worries for them. They know that it's a long season. They're going to compete throughout the duration of it. And I think if you're Houston, you really want to try to bounce back from a loss like that in midweek. Yes, it's Challenge Cup and it affects something entirely different, but you're back at home. And we talked about Houston at home, Jordan. We want to see them make Houston a tough place to play. We want to see them really lean into that. Yeah. Do you think that happens for them this week against the Reign?
It's going to be hard. I don't know about that. Houston has been better at home, though. They had a win, and then they just had a draw against Gotham. So their back-to-back performances at home have been a little bit more up to the standard that Sam Lady has put in for them and started that season off saying, hey, we have to be better at home. But this is a really tough stretch of games for Houston. They played Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday. A lot of teams played Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, or Louisville played Friday, then Wednesday, and then Sunday. Yeah. So this is I talked to Sam Lady about this, and he said this is the toughest week of our season when it comes to the only 2 days in between each game. And at the end of it, it's OL Reign.
Yeah.
And Sam Lady knows a lot about OL Reign. He was the assistant coach there for a number of years. And I really do think that what we see from Houston a lot and how they build up looks very similar to what OL Reign do, with letting Didasco go higher, building out of a 3-back. That's what Laura Harvey does with Sofia Huerta. So I think it might not cause as many problems for OL Reign, because OL Reign knows exactly how to counteract those types of rotations. So it'll be interesting to see how I think this Houston squad, which will have a lot of rested players. They didn't bring Alicia Chapman. They didn't bring Joelle Anderson, Caprice Didasco, Jane Campbell, Sophie Hurst. None of those players traveled on Wednesday. And he said, stay home in your bed, rest, be ready for this game. And those are the players that have really been key for them, especially Joelle Anderson. And she, if they don't have her as that attacking midfield, they switch up their formation. And this is something that if she is healthy, I think she's going to be able to run in between those two, sometimes just one, but typically two holding midfielders for OL Reign. And I've been pretty hard on the holding midfielders in OL Reign because I think that there's moments when they're not good enough with possession. There's moments that they're not hard enough in challenges. So can Anderson use a little bit of her ability to stretch the field and her mobility to ask a lot out of those two players? If Houston's going to find a good performance, it's going to be in those situations where they go through the midfield, switch it, point of attack, and then either get Sanchez on the ball with some good willing runners in the box. But I think it's going to be a very similar game back and forth, but it's going to be hard with OL Reign. Depending on who's healthy, again, they still have the depth to throw in a second. I might go a draw here, actually. I'm going to do a draw.
Music to my ears, because you know what? So am I.
So that was a last-minute switch up, Sandra, and we're on the same.
I'm here to support you, Jordan. I'm here to help you and walk you through it, and whatever you need from me, if it's just to listen and help you reach to that point, then I'm here for it.
Okay, thank
I
you.
had my pick ready. If this was going to be my draw for all of the reasons that you mentioned, because of the back and forth, because of the familiarity and systems that we're going to see going head to head, it might come down to the depth. It might come down to the bench in this game. But I also feel like there's opportunities there for both squads as well. I love that you mentioned Hurst, the rookie. This could be a game where she has another impact, whether it's on the dead ball situation or not. Elise Bennett, will she not get the start in this game against Houston Dash? I don't know. We'll see. That's there's some certain familiarities here, like I mentioned, that I think make it tough to kind of go one way or the other. And listen, even if Houston Dash themselves have not been able to capitalize on making Houston a tough place to play, we know that it is, no matter and it's going to be a hot one. It's summer in Texas. It's going to be tough for any team on the road, whether they have a deep bench or not. And I think it'll also be tougher for OL Reign as well. So who knows? Maybe it's I don't know if it's going to be 0-0. I don't know if it's going to be 1-1. I don't know if it's going to be 2-2. I just know it's somewhere that this has the makings of a draw in it. So I love that we pretty much went 3 for 3 in this middle segment of picks here. We're living dangerous, y'all. But stick with us. We've got 2 more picks to make. We'll be back after a quick break.
Absolutely magisterial here. Artilharia do Campeonato Brasileiro. Colpisce ancora. Golazo.
All right, let's wrap it up with 2 more picks, the last matches that we're going to go through for Week 12 action. Let's chat a little bit about Chicago Red Stars versus Portland Thorns FC. This one closing things out on Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern. One of those games where you just got to look at it, know what's in front of you. There's a whole half of a season for us to take a look at these teams and how they've navigated things and how they have performed. And when it looks like a duck, sounds like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. I think we're both going to make another similar pick here.
Yeah.
Red Stars, unfortunately, had a couple wins there to kind of close out their May and jump into June. But unfortunately, they're coming off of that really tough 5 spot against North Carolina Courage, where they gave up a hat trick to Caroline. And now they're coming off a 4-goal loss in Challenge Cup against Kansas City Current. And kind of echoed some mirror imaging here for me. I think we saw when Chicago went on the road to Angel City and handed them that loss, there was a certain level of disappointment, I think, if you're Angel City. I think that comes into play in this phase of the season when you are those bottom half table teams and you find those teams going head to head against each other. Maybe they look at those games as windows of opportunity, right? They're going to say, hey, this is a team that we can wake up and go up against and say, let's go and steal some points. And Angel City didn't do that. And while there was a lot of great energy around Sydney Leroux's return and, her getting a goal, there was still some body language where it was like, this sucks. Like, we dropped another game against another team that is struggling this season as well. And you've got Chicago coming off of this midweek Challenge Cup game where kind of felt similar energy a little bit. You're going up against a team that is right there neck and neck in terms of swapping out last place in the standings, and you drop 4 goals, you concede 4 goals against them on the road. Doesn't feel great, right? After you had so we're talking 9 games or 9 goals in the span of 2 games for Chicago Red Stars. This one's going to be at home for them. That's a tough place, I think, for some oppositions to play in at times. I think the earlier kickoff might come in and play a role sometimes if it's sunny. The sun peeks in to some goals, the south goal there. And that can always make for some very nervy moments. But I think if you're Portland, this is a game you're looking at and you're saying, yeah, it's on the road. Yeah, we've got travel on our legs going in here, but let's get in here and get the job done. Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, it will come down to depth. It will come down to bench. It will come down to players who are available. And the Thorns have typically had the better of that throughout the duration of their first half of the season. And I'm going to go with Thorns in this one. I'm curious if you feel differently.
Yeah. I think first, Thorns did not look good. Well, they couldn't get a result against Orlando. So they showed just last weekend that they're susceptible on the road, playing in a place that is just a little uncomfortable, a little bit hotter in Orlando, a little bit longer of a travel. But I think for Chicago being a day game, it's going to be not what they're used to in Portland, because you have told us it is summer in Chicago and can get hot and humid there. So I think that will be a factor. I think this Chicago team they had a midweek game. Portland did not have a midweek game. In that midweek game for the Red Stars, they rotated, I think, 8 players. They had a big turnover from what they normally do with the eyes on this game. From my opinion, you're looking ahead and saying, all right, we've got the Thorns at home. We need to put up a fight here. Yeah. And so one of the players that I hope doesn't get rotated and I hope can have a few more minutes is Kayla Sharples. This is a player coming off of an ACL, was just such a good 1-2 tandem with Tierna Davidson in the back line for Chicago for a number of years. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see her, Sharples, Davidson, and Kruger as a back 3. And then you can put Bianca St. George in a little bit more of a normal spot, Aaron Wright in a normal spot. And maybe this looks a little bit more like what we saw from Chicago from last year with that solid back 3 in a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3. So I think that is going to really help them getting Sharples back. And it was just great to see her be one of the best players on the pitch. So I don't think you take much, Sandra, out of that midweek game. I don't know why they didn't rest Alyssa Nair, because at some point you need to stop putting her in. And this might be a Nair thing. She might be saying, I want to play. I'm a leader on the team. I want to play. I want as many games as I can. But I think that was a really rough way for a goalkeeper to have to, after 5 goals over the weekend, then the 4 against Kansas City. So I think Chicago will have so much more fight than we have seen in these last couple of games. And this is going to be where they have to, defensively, they have to stay compact. If they get expansive and let Portland, if they press too much, Portland's going to play through the seams. Can they stay compact and say, all right, Portland, play through a low block. See what you can do in this. And if Portland is able to successfully do that, then the game might potentially open up, because Chicago is going to have to get a goal. But I think that they're going to be a lot more compact. They're going to rely on their defensive structure. And if they have the chance to break out, they're going to have to use Cook in those moments. And she's going to have to get that dog in her like she got it in Angel City and find a moment. And set pieces are going to be important for them. If they can get one, they've proven that they can really hold on to that. So I think Chicago's going to fight, but I think Portland's going to win when you think about their midfield.
100%. I'm with you on that. I look, just because I'm picking Portland doesn't mean I don't think it's going to be a competitive game.
Yeah.
I go here. So for people who don't know, I go here. I know that Chicago can play Portland pretty tough at home. I've been to those games. I've seen them when they have played Portland tough at home. I've seen 3-2 score lines. I've seen 3-1 score lines. I didn't tell the whole story. I've seen them beat Portland in a semifinal, their first ever semifinal. They play Portland tough at SeatGeek Stadium in Bridgeview. That's absolutely 100% something that I will always get on board with. I just, just because you're going to play a team tough, though, I mentioned some of those score lines. Just because you're going to play a team tough doesn't mean that it always works out for you in the end. But I do love that you mentioned some of the schemes for Portland and something that we talked about for them in previous matches at this point in the season, at the halfway point. This is not a team. This is also not a team that are strangers to conceding some goals. They have been on the end of some score lines where all of a sudden we have seen them, let in 3 goals on a scoreline against other teams. Now, I don't know if Chicago has the attackers right now at this moment to put up such a hefty scoreline and end up in, let's say, even just a draw that is, full of goals. But I think it will be competitive. I'm with you, and hopefully to see some more minutes for Kayla Sharples. She's a player that this franchise drafted, and she's grown and developed with them over time. And you could see, I think, it just her minutes back so far, what she can provide for the team in a defensive shape. It allows Kruger a bit more freedom, I think, in those areas. So it'll be interesting to see kind of those individual battles on the pitch. How does this defensive shape try to contain a Sophia Smith and a Weaver if they're both getting starts, together? How does Portland's midfield decide that they want to address things on the pitch? Because I think when it comes to that middle third, they've got the advantage by far. So it'll be interesting to see kind of these different in-game scenarios when that whistle kicks. But it'll be a tough game, but we're both going Portland, and we'll see if we're correct. We've got one more game to make a pick, and then we're going to close out with everyone. We have to chat about Kansas City Current versus Washington Spirit. Spirit getting their results, getting their wins, staying in the upper half of the table, staying competitive. Challenge Cup. Kansas City Current trying to put things together at the right time. We're talking a lot about the midway point here, and the Current and the return of players that we're starting to see for them get more extended minutes. They have this massive Challenge Cup game against Chicago Red Stars. Is this something that they carry with them to try to deliver a loss to Washington Spirit? Do you have a winner and a loser in this one, Jordan?
Yeah, I do. I have a winner. I think Kansas City wins this game at home. I just feel like they have started to find themselves again, and they played in a 4-3-3 in that Challenge Cup game, but they've been playing mostly in a 3-3 back. But it was Haley Mace higher as a winger, which we haven't seen in so long. I think that Kansas City is going to go back to more of a 3-4-3, 3-4-2-1, and they're going to have the experience of, I think Gautrat will play again. DiBernardo will start in there. Good for her to get a goal in this last game. But then we're going to see, again, more minutes from Kristen Hamilton up top, and I think that has been really the pivot point. Yes, all these players are coming back, but there was no relief of the pressure for Kansas City. And it just was a lot for Michelle Cooper, the youngster, to put on her shoulders to be that outlet and to hold up the ball. And the moment Kristen Hamilton got back in games, it was like this team knew how they could find her, she could hold the ball up, and she could allow them to then come join the attack. So I think that Kansas City Current is going to continue to look more like themselves. They have more people getting healthy. Ball is back and healthy as well. And I think versus Washington Spirit, this is such a condensed central team where they play a 4-4-2, but it's a tight diamond centrally. They ask a lot of those shuttlers to get wide and to utilize the space. But if you think about Kansas City, they're so good at driving centrally and then committing players into the middle and finding the channels where they have their wing backs, or they have a winger who is drifted wide and can go 1v1. I think that this is going to be an extension of that form that we saw from the Current And it's going to be a good game, but I think that the Current are going to take this one over Washington.
I love that. I love that you're riding with Kissy. Listen, I want to highlight a player really quickly. Cece Kaiser, I think, has been one of their more consistent players throughout the duration of this regular season. It was a great match that we got to see her play in Challenge Cup against Chicago Red Stars. But as high as I am on Cece Kaiser, I'm even higher when I get to see her play alongside Kristen Hamilton. I think they have a incredible chemistry and dynamic between each other, and I'm hopeful that it is something that is going to combat and compete with what we see between Rodman and Sanchez, or Sanchez and Hatch, right? So I think this has the makings of some exciting attacking moments in this game. I also really like that it's still at Kansas City. We've seen some great crowds turn up at Children's Mercy's Park, and I'm hopeful that they're going to ride the momentum in this game. And I think I'm also going to go Kansas City Current in this game as well. Let's just make all the similar picks. Let's just have a theme. Let's just, it's your last one with us for now, Jordan. I'm just going to ride with you pick for pick for pick. Yeah. So I'm going to go Current as well. And we're going to go ahead and wrap it up from there. Thanks everybody for joining and listening to Attacking Third. Download, follow, listen to us anywhere you get your podcasts. Go ahead and leave us a rating and review. That stuff helps us out so much. You can watch us on YouTube. Subscribe to youtube.com/Attacking Third so that you never miss out on a single episode and get alerts for whenever we go live. And we are going to be back on Monday morning. Okay, so check back with us on Monday for a full recap and rundown of our picks. Stay tuned. Jordan, this was awesome. Thank you again so much for being here with us. I hope you had as much fun as I did. Okay.
This was a blast.
I hope I made this
a lot of goals in that Attacking Third.
I hope I made this a second home for you, and then we get to see you again some more in the future. Okay. Thank you so much for being here in place while Lisa's off and living the honeymoon bliss. That's a wrap for us, though. Thanks, everybody, for joining along. For Sandra Herrera and Jordan Angeli, this was Attacking Third.